So at this time, we're opening things up to the general public, the audience, to ask questions, to make a statement, to give an opinion. And again, we would ask you to come up one at a time. These are the reserved seats. If you're not in one now, please get in one now if you do propose to ask a question or make a statement. And before you get underway with the question or whatever it is you're going to ask, just please give us your name and your address, please.
Hi, my name is Claudia Bush, and I'm really glad that we're having this forum today. My question goes to Mike Burns. I noticed a couple things in your presentation based on the scientific research you were providing us with information with, and your response to the research done for ITRON was it is smart meters not harmful.
Claudia, can I just ask, are you from Penticton or Culloden?
I'm sorry. Thank you, Steve. I am from Culloden.
Thank you.
Yes, I am from the Okanagan.
Mm-hmm.
So just to clarify, ITRON as a manufacturer doesn't perform research on the effects of radio frequency interaction with people or other species. We're subject to, we're not a research organization, we're a manufacturer. We manufacture equipment and devices, and anything that we manufacture that has any characteristics that are regulated in Canada or the United States, we're responsible to comply with applicable regulations from the authority that has the right to regulate those characteristics. So ITRON is not a health research organization.
But you stand behind the safety of the smart meter attached to a home?
We do.
Yes, you do.
Because we comply with all applicable regulations.
Yes, I noticed that. I noticed something else too, though. When we were all listening to the presentation of the effects of electromagnetic stuff used by the military, and it was announced that it's 100% dangerous for people, you were very much in agreement to that.
It was interesting, and unfortunately we did not have the opportunity to review the materials that were presented by the other panel prior to tonight's meeting, so it's difficult to comment on any of the specific evidence they presented, but I have a little experience with the United States Navy, being a graduate of the United States Naval Academy and having served as an officer on board submarines. So unfortunately I'm not familiar with any of the research that they cited. I'd be very interested in taking a look at it and looking at specifically what they were talking about, because the devil's in the details, as it's often stated.
I would be interested in that information as well, because I am, as was presented by Curtis Bennett, susceptible to the effects of electromagnetic radiation, and how, I don't know who Barb is, but thanks for being here today, because when I called the cell phone company, I know it can't be compared to Smartmeter, but and told them about the effects of cell phone on me. They didn't believe me either, but I knew the cell phone was doing this because nothing else had changed in my life. So my question to you is, would you have prepared in place of Smartmeter when constituents disagree with having Smartmeter put into their homes?
Well, again, back to ITRON's primary function or purpose in life is we don't deploy smart meters. We manufacture smart meters, we sell them to utilities. So utilities deploy those. Utilities, typically utilities deal with interactions with their customers. That you're a customer of your utility is a customer of ITRON.
Okay, so we would have to go to our utility company. Absolutely.
Yeah, actually, let me hand you over to Mitch on this one.
To answer your question, we haven't formulated a position on that. We have had requests to not install those meters. We have had a couple of cases where people have cited that they have severe medical conditions, and we said, fine, we're not going to put them in that instance. And we've had other people call, and we've explained to them that we're having this forum, and we would ask them to wait until that was completed. After this meeting tonight, we'll be taking a report back to council sometime next month to consider the information that's here and then present some options to council. What other municipalities have done varies. Some have just said, no, this is what you get. Others have put in place an opt-out program as well. So there are options, but we have not formulated a Penticton option at this point in time.
I know of a municipality that's interested in an opt-out program. Where do I get more information like that?
Could you repeat that, please?
I know of a municipality or a constituents of a municipality that's interested in an opt-out program.
Yep.
Where do I get more information about that?
I know that Nelson is looking at putting one in place if they haven't already got it in place. And
okay.
I have some additional information back at my office, but I don't have it with me here tonight. That's what those municipalities have done, and what they have done is they have said, okay, if you want to opt out, we can do that, but there's going to be a cost for you to change the meter out, and there's going to be a cost because now we have to actually physically send a person in a truck to read that meter. So if you're willing to pay for those costs, then we'll change the meter out. So that's what some of the opt-out programs that others have done.
Okay, so a person would come to you for that
Please.
information, or a person would go to Nelson to get that information?
Well, like I said, we haven't formulated a position on it yet.
Okay.
That an opt-out program is an option. How you build that program, I don't know. I just simply have told you the research that I've done when I've talked to Nelson, that's an approach that they're taking, right? There could be other approaches. You could just say, well, no, we're not going to charge for that. We're not at that point yet.
Okay. We actually are looking for an opt-out program, though. So very much interested in getting some of that into our community, and wondering if you are going to be giving us some of these options.
Well, as I've indicated, we'll be taking a report back to council, and we'll be discussing those items at that time. So we're not ready to talk about those tonight.
Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you.
Ma'am?
I just wanted to be here tonight to say that I am electrically sensitive.
Could you please give us your name and address?
My
first?
name is Judy Nicholas. I'm from Oliver.
Thank you.
I worked in a medical lab with lots of printers, computers, fluorescent lights for many years, and then I got a really bad viral infection. Within 3 weeks, I stopped sleeping at night, so it happens really quickly. After 6 months, I was very sick and had to leave my work. So it can happen to very healthy people, not just, you're not born with it, it's not an allergy. When I go into the city, Vancouver, Edmonton, wherever, immediately I walk into what I feel like a fog, and I see all the cell towers, and I can't go into the city. I shop in Penticton a lot. If Penticton's full of smart meters, I'm going to have to start staying home in Oliver and cross my fingers that Fortis doesn't get approval to put in the smart meter. I have a lot of friends in Penticton. Am I going to be able to go to their house and socialize with them, be with them? I don't know. I'll find out. I know I'm reactive to Wi-Fi. I know my electrical system has been badly affected. I'm constantly having to get energy work done to keep my energy, my electrical system in my body working properly. I feel the effects of it all the time. My body is tingling and burning. And that happened 15 years ago, so I think I'm in for the full life thing. But the point with it is it was long-term, a small amount, but long-term, 6 months. So it would be nice if Penticton stayed free of these things, because all of the BC Hydro area would come here for their holidays. They might even move here to get away from the smart meters. I live in probably the only clean place in the South Okanagan, and it's called Willowbrook. We can't have cell towers near that area because of the White Lake Observatory. So it stands as the only clean area in the South Okanagan, and I live there. I'm lucky. I feel bad for all of the children and the people that will become compromised. There's not enough room in Willowbrook.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Appreciate your input. Sir, do you have a question? Yes, you're in one of the reserved seats if you would like to come forward.
Hi, good evening. My name is Greg Kyle. I live in Penticton, and I came a little bit to the discussion through Kevin relating on a matter of water. I have a little bit of an alkaline ionized water business that I do. But it was years and years ago that got me involved more specifically about health issues when I was severely affected by arthritis. Long story short, let's move to today. You want to move to a part of the country or part of the world or where we're not as afflicted by these types of health issues. So fast forward, when I came in tonight, I was completely open-minded, and when I sat and listened to the gentleman on the panel up here at first, I was kind of almost ready to get up and walk out. I went, yeah, well, that sounds pretty good. It sounded like reasonable information and straightforward talk, and I very much appreciated that. And then after I listened to these guys over here, these gentlemen here, I realized that the passion that stands and the passion that exists with these people is, these are people that would work probably for nothing and often do for very little money to be able to get a point across that we're systematically, or we seem to be systematically, a little by little being rolled over by policy or situations that we seem to have very little control over again. So when I hear this person before me talking about an opt-out program, we need that. We need the option at least to be able to say yay or nay at our home, at our private space where we want to feel healthy and live healthy. And that's what we're really asking for. I don't remember a lot of discussion about this however many years ago, and when I see this kind of information and these kind of real facts, that's really swayed where I come to the argument now, to be able to say, everybody, we've got to get involved a little bit more, and be concerned about these types of things, because it's a little bit now, and then it's a lot later. Things like arthritis and some of the ailments that the people that already come up to the mic and talked about, these don't happen overnight. It's a layering on effect, and we need more control. We just need some options to be able to say yay or nay. And I think I very much hope that we give this type of situation some real considerate thought. I'm certainly going to do that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. If there is a Diane O'Neill that is here, can you make your presence known to me afterwards when we're finished, please?
Hi, Steve. Cindy Bishop here from Penticton. I have a few comments and questions. First off, when it comes to the Health Organization of Canada, when it comes to the standards they set, you've got to also remember that many years ago, maybe 50 years ago, that they actually touted that for pregnant women to have 4 to 6 cigarettes a day was a healthy thing to calm their nerves. So when it comes to standards they set, I don't really put a high bar on what they put in place. I am curious. I know that the new water meters that the city put in are supposed to be fairly safe. However, I'd like to know how they compare to the smart meters a little bit. I know that that wasn't part of the conversation tonight. But the radio frequency waves that they do give off, I'm extremely concerned with. I don't have one yet. But I had been given a letter from the city that if I didn't get it, I was going to have no water or utilities in my house. I was basically, take that. Take that. I had written a letter to the editor. I'm going to get emotional here, sorry. But to be threatened of my life, my livelihood, to say I can't have water, I can't have gas, I can't have the essentials to live in my house because I don't get this meter? I'm sorry, there is something seriously wrong here. I do not presently have this meter. I do not presently have the water meter in my house, but the only way that I could actually subside from getting my water cut off was to call and agree to get it in. And I do have a date scheduled. I do not want it in. I would like to know what I can do to not have it. Mr. Ashton, I do appreciate the email that you sent me, but I never did receive a phone call. I don't know what to do here. When it comes to a smart meter, I do plan on buying a lock for it. I'd like to know, I know there are opt-out options that are out there in other communities. One is to pay for some guy to come and read it, when I can darn well read the damn thing myself and call it into you without having to pay $25 to $50 a shot. There's supposedly pits that you can actually be put into the front of your house so that they're removed from the radio frequencies. But that doesn't remove the fact that there still are radio frequencies that my little child is going to be running around on top of, and every other animal and person around is going to feel the heat waves from that. I've chosen not to have a cell phone. I do not use it. I use a landline, and I'm very, very careful on what I use around me. I'm highly sensitive to it, but honestly, I think that's regardless to any of this crap that's around. I think this goes to the future of our planet, the future of our community, the future of our children, and it goes to the future of what we need to do to protect ourselves. We should not be able to say to anybody they are not allowed to have any power, any utilities, any gas, just because I choose to have the safety and well-being around my family and myself. There's one other comment that I have that may really not be something that could be considered in the short term, but definitely in the long term. And this is going to sound a little obscure to a lot of people. But our planet right now is on a major polarization shift. Our north and south poles are shifting. Our North Pole, they're now 2,000 kilometers different than they were less than 100 years ago. They're already predicting that by 2043, that the North Pole will be where the middle of Siberia is. And they've already known for a fact that on top of this, that with the sun's increased radioactive frequencies that are going to be shifted and thrown to Earth, that cell phones will become useless. Anything that is ran in that way will become futile and non-functional. And I'd like to know, if you're planning on doing this, why? Why? Why are you planning on causing more problems on our planet and everything in this way to warm up our planet? We're becoming hotspots everywhere. And I just find there's wired options out there that can create the same thing. If you want an hourly rate, that you can actually charge us more, I don't care about that. Charge me for doing my laundry at 9 o'clock in the morning more than at 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't care. But give us safer options. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen.
Hi there. I don't know quite how the shorter people got that microphone way up there. Anyway, I'm delighted that everyone's here tonight and very appreciative of all of you having come and everything that you've had to say. I want to...
Can you first give us your name and where you're from?
Yes, my name's Joan Moffat and I live here in Penticton. I'm a health professional with a master's degree. So I'm used to wandering around among many papers in the health professions. And I can assure you that for approximately 50 years at least, it has been well known and well documented that body frequencies work between approximately 0 or very slight to approximately 50 cycles per second. And that very tiny watts, voltages, and amps make big differences. I want to give you an example of that, which is straight out of, again, a paper about 30 years old. We're not going to go into the things. For example, the white cells in your blood, of which you are all very familiar, have many purposes, and we see them as running around there as white cells, and we're told that they work for immunity and that they gobble up debris in your bloodstream. And on a physical basis, of course, they do, but I think most people need to be aware that if you add 0.2 microvolts, that those same white cells do different things. They change your mood. If you add another 0.2 or take away 0.4 microvolts from these same white cells, then they run to different parts of your body to help with healing. If you change the microvolts on these cells, and any cells for that matter, by approximately 0.4 microvolts, then healing is either stopped or initiated. And this information has been known for a long time. In other words, very small currents of electricity within every single cell we have, because after all, they're made up of atoms and molecules, all of which have a valence. We've all done grade 10 physics and chemistry with the periodic table. We all know that. And these are very small amounts, and each cell reads its own thing. If we have anything with electricity that is penetrating the body, I can tell you that it is affecting every cell we have. And it's not just a case of affecting one cell this way and leaving the rest alone. It's affecting all of them. When we look at most of the research that's floating around out there, you'll find that the type of thing that is used by Code 6 and the Canadian government is what I call macro research. That is, it looks at large amounts of electricity and the effects of those, the top of which would be that if you give somebody enough, you electrocute them. And at what point can we go down the scale before it has no effect? But this, in fact, is a misnomer, a misinterpretation, because small effects are also very effective. That's the macro damage. If we look at the micro damage, then we're into the type of thing that I was just describing, where the body uses things in these effects in things like fever, but it also deals with these effects in the fact of chronic diseases. The cell walls of every cell you have are microcrystalline and electrically charged at very, very tiny volts. And there is no denying this. One of the things that I would come forward with a question with this type of research is that it is available. And when I understand that the country does not, as Canadian government, does not use this information in their codes. But this information is available and quite comprehensible by people who have not studied a lot of science. In other words, it's available to our cities and our companies. And one of the things I find most upsetting is the passing of the buck, which says, oh, my city has no power to deal with this, when my city has been electing people to deal with exactly these things, the things that are of common interest to everyone. And the companies who say, I am a good company, I am providing things that are of benefit to the world, when in fact the things have dangerous features which they are not willing to look at. So I would like to ask my city representatives whether our city council and our company representatives sitting here are people who have a bit of a moral stance, if they have personal integrity that allows them to pass the buck and say, I have no power here, and I don't have time or will not take the time to look into this type of knowledge that has been around for everyone for approximately half a century.
Thank you, Jane.
Hi, my name is Barbara Makota, and I'm from Enderby. Yes, those were my images that Curtis showed. My health was severely impacted by radio frequencies coming out of my workplace cell phone. The phone frequencies left burning lesions on my face repeatedly because we didn't know what was causing it. It damaged my eyes, it damaged my nervous system. Now when I'm in these frequencies, my body goes into Parkinson's, only when I'm near these frequencies. Recently, the World Health Organization classified these frequencies as a 2B carcinogenic, meaning they can cause cancer. This, however, has been ignored by Health Canada, who continue to say, oh, we need not change anything, that this is safe. However, in Safety Code 6, the code says that anybody who is in contact with a radio frequency device needs to be made aware of the potential harmful health effects. I find it unconscionable that Health Canada still ignores the science that is out there, ignores the World Health Organization, and has not informed councils, provinces, and other industries that there have been reports that this code is lacking a frequency, our frequency. So I feel that it's your responsibility, the makers of ITRON, to do the studies to find out if it is, in fact, causing harmful health effects. I think it's also imperative that the public is made aware of the potential health effects, especially over a long period of time. And I don't think that a young mother may be made aware that if she's pregnant, that she should avoid these frequencies. I think that the mother should be told that her baby's crib should not be on the opposite side of the wall of one of these meters. That over a long period of time, this vulnerable, intricate, delicate baby health will be impacted for the rest of their lives. Today, I have electrical hypersensitivity. I am allergic to these frequencies, but yet I'm told that I must have a transmitting radio frequency, microwave, bursting frequencies through my body, that I must have this on my home, even though I don't want it. I'm not given an option. That means my democracy has been taken away from me. We have no more democracy, no more rights to protect our own health in our own homes. There's something wrong with this picture. I do applaud Penticton Council for bringing this presentation together. I do thank you for that. I also made a presentation to Enderby City Council, and what they did was they are now forming a panel. And I have been invited as an expert on that panel, as well as Curtis Bennett. And I would like to see a similar thing here, where, you know, it's not the end of this, you know, investigation. We want it investigated further. We want you to take responsibility and to protect our health, to do the job that you were mandated to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara, and appreciate you taking the time to come down and join us this evening. Sir.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lindsay Hall. I live in Penticton. Before I ask a question, I just want to say something. You know, all too often in the life, we only hear when people think we're doing a bad job. We never hear thank you and appreciations for when people think we're doing a good job. And I just, for one, want to say that our city council is doing a hell of a good job, and I think we have a great mix of people on council this term. They've given us this opportunity for this forum when they didn't do so. 100%. My first question, gentlemen, for all four, is how many professional engineers have we got on the panel?
How many professional?
Which of you gentlemen are a professional engineer? You're a professional engineer, Mitch?
Yes, I am.
And do you have experience with radar communications or telecommunications frequency engineering?
Do I have that background?
What is your background? Civil engineering?
Civil engineering.
Civil engineering. So
I don't have that background.
Your profession doesn't focus on electronics or radio frequency engineering?
Civil engineering does not, no.
No, it does not. I am an engineer, mechanical design engineer, and I was a radar communication technician for NORAD, Class Secret, for several years. I need to tell you that radio frequency and electromagnetic frequency radiation is a cumulative effect. And we've seen that in the radar communication field over the decades. People in my profession, in radar communications, was notably during the Vietnam era, the testing done showed that people in my profession suffered from many ill effects of the radar, and one being the loss of amalgam fillings in the teeth and the increased ingestion of mercury and lead because of that. Our radar sites were encapsulated in copper mesh, grounded, and we were under the radar, but yet we suffered the ill effects of the radar that technically was spanning out over us. Now, one question I want to ask again, Mitch, you had quoted how many millions were spent on the AMR meter procurement. How many million was that again?
There's two numbers I provided. On the electrical side, 1.4 million, and on the water side, it'll be 1.8 at program completion.
1.4 million and 1.8 million. How many meter readers did we have employed by the city of Penticton? 5 years ago. Let's take it back 5 years.
We had about 1.5, and we're now down to 1.
So we have 1.5 meter readers. How many years would it take in wages to pay $1.4 and $1.2 million in wages to these, accounting for, of course, maintenance for the analog meters that were in place and such? How many years would we be able to employ meter readers?
Just take one and divide it by the other.
Exactly. And can you tell me how many years? I'm not going to ask you how much you were paying the people. I'm going to guesstimate, but tell me how many years we could pay those people, given an annual increase for the cost of living allowance. How many years could we employ those people for that 1.2, 1.8 million, whatever it came to? 2.4 in total?
I haven't got those numbers, sir. I'm sorry.
Now, if you're a professional engineer, Mitch, these calculations would have been the most basic calculation to make. Whether to procure new equipment or to employ our neighbors and friends. And it absolutely disgusts me, really, that to see a professional engineer make that kind of a judgment. Unless there were other added benefits of which we don't see. You may have seen in the sales brochures. Now, these gentlemen from ITRON, I don't question you onto your liabilities of safeness, of health at all. You're tantamount to a D-Link router company producing a piece of equipment, and liability rests with the user. Is that correct? The liability of the use of your equipment rests with the end user. Is that not correct?
That's not true. I'm not sure where you're going with this, though.
So if it is determined, without shadow of a doubt, that there are ill health effects for using these meters within a community, can you honestly tell me that ITRON will be the ultimately liable for the use of those meters?
That's entirely dependent on the legal system and a scenario which has never been seen before. So there's no way to predict that outcome.
Well, we've already heard from the gents what repeatedly the home insurance people have claimed with the occurrences of fires emanating from these meters, and I doubt that liability has been passed on back to ITRON. Is that true?
ITRON has stood behind every product they've ever built or shipped.
So has ITRON reimbursed people for fires emanating from those meters?
I just answered the question. ITRON has stood behind every product we've ever shipped, whether it's electrical, gas, or water.
They got a new meter.
Look, we don't have time to go through.
They got a new meter, but the home damage was not covered by insurance or ITRON.
It has nothing to do with a replacement meter. It has to do with doing what's right. And our utility clients will all 8,000 of them globally will back us on that statement.
I'm going to leave my position with, I think we could have paid meter readers for some 20-odd years before we needed to invest in a new system of meters in this community, which buys its power from abroad and resells it within the community. I think the problems within this community, Mitch, are resting with your department.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. Appreciate it. Just 1 second, there is a response to that, please.
I don't appreciate those comments. First of all, the decisions that were made here were made in 2003. I didn't work in this area in 2003. I wasn't responsible for this area in 2003 when this started. I can't tell you, I have to go back in the file to look at that. Also, you also have to consider that the electromagnetic or the electromechanical meters that were in place had to be replaced. So they were going to have to either be replaced with an AMR meter or some other form of digital meter, so the city would have incurred a cost to do that. So you really only have to look at the differential cost between those two items when you're looking at that. So that would have to be looked into. I can't tell you whether what was done in 2003 when that was done. So I don't appreciate your attack, because I felt that was a very personal attack, and I don't think that was right.
Well, Mitch, I apologize if you take it personally, and of course it rests with the person who made the decision to acquire these AMR meters and digital water meters? If that's not you, I apologize. But it's still that department.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. You've made a very good point. We appreciate it very much. And thanks for being so respectful when you began. And we ask everyone to remain respectful. Now, do you have a question?
One final question. You're saying to me then that it was impossible to continue maintaining the analog meters that the city owned and operated?
In terms of that, those meters had to be tested on a regular basis, and as they were getting older, the test frequency was becoming more and more frequent. So you were incurring additional costs in doing that testing. So and you couldn't buy them anymore, so they weren't available. So when you had to replace them, you had to go to a different type of a meter, a digital meter. So that would have happened at some point. They were ending the end of their useful life.
Okay, could we have gone to a digital meter which didn't
I have to interrupt you. Lindsay, please.
One final question,
Well,
please.
we did say one question. You've had 3 or 4. You will be able to come back. We need to get everyone else to be able to say what they want to say as well. So please, we really appreciate it. Sir, I believe you were next.
My name is Johannes Wüsterveld. I'm 6 years now here in Penticton. I have one question to ITRON. I work in the same field, or not in the same field. I have a couple patents, but when I send a patent in to the government, I have to put the safety reasons out. So it was the first question here: is this meter harm people? And you could only say, we are the manufacturer. That's not enough. You know, when you manufacture something, you have also to consider the safety reason.
Absolutely, I agree completely. And the only thing that we have to go on are the guidelines that are presented to us by the regulatory agencies who have a jurisdiction over regulating public health and safety. In the United States, that's the FCC. In Canada, that's Health Canada. Those are our reference standards as a manufacturer of equipment. That they are. We absolutely take those seriously. Everything we build complies with the applicable standards that we're presented with from the regulatory agencies that have jurisdiction over maintaining health and safety for the public. You know, the term democracy was kind of thrown around loosely as being destroyed. That's how democracy, that's how democratic government works, is agencies have responsibility for certain things, and those agencies tasked with maintaining public health and safety provide regulatory guidance to other agencies and to businesses that work in that country. That's how it works. That's the way the system...
I agree with this, but then in this moment, harm the meter people. That's the question, and you was only saying, we are the manufacturer. So the clear answer for me is to say, okay, I take the smart meter on my house. The meter is not harm people, but you cannot answer this question.
According to
the
regulatory agencies that have jurisdiction over health and safety, the meter does not
heard this
make
on and on and on. You know,
please one moment, please. Please allow the person to answer before you respond.
I'm sorry, that is the answer. There is no other answer.
Can I help you out a little bit with that? And again, you guys understand this is a very important discussion. What he is telling you is absolutely true, which is, even to me as a professional, is horrifying. Because when these guys do their job, this is what part of my problem is, even with engineers or otherwise, is engineers are saying to me, why weren't we told this? And I said, beats the hell out of me, because we weren't told either. So these guys are really seriously have to go to a regulatory body that says you can do this or you can't. And here's the sad reality, and again, we're not conspiracy theorists, here's the reality. Health Canada's administration did not practice due diligence. And even in the U.S. courts, it embarrasses me as an expert witness that I have to tell the U.S. courts that Health Canada didn't do their job and pass on this information even to ITRON. They didn't pass it on to the U.S. They did not pass it on to Penticton. And they did not pass this important information on. And here's what I would say to any engineer, any administrator. How are these guys supposed to administer in that capacity when we've got a government from top to bottom? Now, and again, I presented this to Health Canada because even the U.S. court said, why did you report this to Health Canada? I said, they're my authority having jurisdiction. Why did you report this to Canadian Standing Committee? They're my authority. They're the highest authority. They were supposed to pass this on even to these gentlemen here, and they didn't do that job. The BC government did not pass this information on to these guys either. So as much as, I'm all for these frequencies just not being where they are, these guys really got blindsided too, as did I, as a professional. And so the blame is just not with these guys on this. They really have to follow that code. BC, the government, you know what BC government would tell you? We have to comply with Safety Code 6. BC Utilities Commission, comply with Safety Code 6. Energy Minister, comply with Safety Code 6. Everybody, you have to comply with Safety Code 6. They didn't do their job on that end, or for the province part of it either.
Thank you very much, Curtis.
Hello, my name is Peter Notz. I live in OK Falls. Okay, thank you. I have a little question for ITRON, for I don't know which one. Since 20 or more years, you made millions of meters you sell around the whole world. How many recalls you had for false reading? Recalls of meters to repair, to replace? How many?
How many recalls?
Yeah, or faulty meter, whatever.
Well, we're not subject to recalls in the way the car industry might be, but when you look at mechanical meters, the ones that we've been talking about here, the older style, and you move to a digital or electronic metering platform, you get a few more failures. And I'm not talking about safety failures, I'm just talking about something might go wrong with the meter. Mm-hmm. So anywhere from 0.25% is about what we see there, and that's sort of industry norm. And if that is within the warranty, ITRON will replace that free of charge. So I don't have a number about how many over the years.
But you had recalls.
Yeah, or
something's wrong with recall, though. They're all good?
Again, could we just ask you to let them finish the answer before you jump in again, please?
But there's a very distinct difference between a recall and product failures. I mean, a recall, I assume when you say recall, you mean a mass recall of millions of units or hundreds of thousands of units that have been shipped for a specific problem. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, that, or replace some because they're false reading. They are failures. You have a huge bill or you have a very tiny bill. Something is wrong with the meter. You have nothing like this?
There are hundreds, if not thousands, of modes of failure for any electronic device, depending on which components fail, how the components fail, the order in which they fail. Any number of those modes of failure can cause any number of symptoms of failure. So a failure is a failure, and failed meters are dealt with as warranty or non-warranty. I mean, it's a relatively mundane task, tracking repairs and warranties, actually.
Because in this case, if there's a failure, if I get the wrong bill or whatever, the customer gets a refund? Why is nobody here from 40?
It's actually relatively easy, especially with a residential customer, to see a bill that's out of line. I mean, you have historical data, you have norms statistical norms that you can base estimates on. So if a meter exhibits an abnormal behavior, it's pretty easy to look at the historical data versus the last reading and tell if it's out of line based on meter functionality. And to my knowledge, typically utilities will settle those on a fairly conservative basis with their estimates. So, I mean, I guess I don't understand how this relates to RF, but.
Okay, but you had to replace some meters because they're not right. They're not working good.
Like any company in electronics, yes, we warranty our products, and if they don't.
That. Nobody knows that,
Again, could you just wait for the answer before you jump in again, please?
Okay.
Yes, we warranty our products to do what we say they will. And the other thing to mention is that the The digital meter is simply more accurate than the electromechanical meter. That's true. We've done our own research. The industry has. It is a more accurate recording of energy usage. So, you know, that leads to more accurate billing based on what your actual usage is.
Okay. Another question is, if I would get a smart meter in my home, I got a pamphlet with how to use it, how to read it, how to understand it.
Yes, most utilities will provide, maybe they provide it on their website, instructions on how to read the digital display rather than the dials.
Yeah, I have to understand it, how it functions. The old one is easy. You see the wheel turning fast or not fast, and you can read the numbers. Okay. Now,
thank you, Peter. There were 2 questions there. If you have any more, please feel free. Okay. Just take a seat and we'll call you back up in a while.
Good evening. My name is Henry Stone. I live in the Pines Mobile Home Park. And before I start, I'd like to ask each gentleman one question. Do you have one of these meters outside your houses?
In my case, in Spokane, Washington, yes, and I have one on my natural gas meter as well.
What about the other gentleman?
I live in Bremerton, Washington, in the Seattle area. I have a meter provided by Puget Sound Energy that has a very similar 900 megahertz communication technology made by a company called Cellnet.
And the 2 unanswering gentlemen from Penticton?
Yes. I live in the Fortis, BC service area. My meter is still an electromechanical, but at one point it will be replaced by a smart meter.
And?
I live in the city of Penticton, and I have an AMR meter.
And
that was a yes.
In the Pines Mobile Home Park, I have approximately 30 of them, 5 feet away from our bedroom. I also have a pacemaker and a stent. And every morning when my wife and I get up, we have headaches, we're dizzy, until we either go outside, go for a walk, or do whatever. That's the first question. The second one is there anything I can buy, like a big sheet of aluminum foil, that I can put on the house to stop those radiation things coming through?
Well, here's something that's really important with any engineering is, has anybody ever taken a piece of aluminum foil or mylar and wrapped a cell phone in it and called that cell phone? Has anybody tried that before?
No.
Well, guess what happens? The phone doesn't ring. And the reason it doesn't ring is because those frequencies at that range bounce off or are reflected. So something that I've even talked about with engineers in any application is, what can we do to, is there something that can be done to reflect them away from you? Because, listen, I get really scared when I hear about a pacemaker and the fact that, these are electromagnetically inducing things and they do cause problems. So I don't know if you can actually, talk to the city, put up some foil or something, but just keep it away from you. But even then you're reflecting it to where? So it's really just a whole...
Well, I can't wrap the whole house in mylar.
You're going to have to... I've got a special suit I'm going to make for you.
Is there anything that I can...
No, yeah, that's the thing is where this, again, and I thank Penticton for this and all of this, is there's so much more dialogue that needs to be done because who would have thought all these horrific issues would be dealt with? Or even the fact that, imagine for me, for medical professionals to come to me and say, how is this going to affect health monitoring equipment put in by Interior Health? So the same idea. So do you know what? I'd like to exchange some information, but I also want to work proactively with your community because this is a first step for these guys too, but I'd sure like to help you with that. Because it's horrible. The idea that these things could electromagnetically induce that device.
I'm even feeling it now.
Well, absolutely. And the government says this. If your Health Canada says this, which is horrible, if you are stimulated, which you are, this experimental studies have shown it can lead to nerve and muscle stimulation, and your nerves run every function of your body.
If it had only been 1 meter behind my house, I probably wouldn't have been down here tonight. 1 meter doesn't mean a hell of a lot. But when I'm there and I've got 30 odd meters behind it, That's where I start to worry.
You know
But
something,
nobody's doing any-
something that's a good question for this part here, because I've wondered about these meter banks, even when I'm consulting for engineers on these great big meter banks.
Yeah.
I said, what is the cumulative effect of all of this blasting through the walls each way, plus up everywhere else? And there are more questions that just need to be answered.
Well, the first day that the reader came round, excuse me, the reader came round, he was sitting in his truck outside, didn't make a movement, just clicking away. Within half an hour of him doing that, I had to go to bed, and I was in bed for over 24 hours. It felt like I had the flu. My pacemaker was going bananas, and they say there's nothing coming through.
And I'd like to hear from the guy in the truck. Because here you've got a guy in the truck taking those meter readings.
Yeah, right.
That's what I mean. We're talking about the meters being a low emission device.
Oh.
This guy is in a vehicle being bombarded by those frequencies as well. And again, that's considerations for a municipality, even with the engineers. Imagine this: when I told a structural engineer, Penticton has already spent this many millions on their program, and he said, "Do you know what it's going to cost any municipality if this hurts a lot of buildings and causes a lot of damage to infrastructures? A couple of $1 million is going to be nothing." So, and hence again, more dialogue on this it's a really critical issue.
What are they thinking about, the money or the person?
Pardon me?
It seems as though they're thinking just about the money and not the people.
Well, here's the horrible thing for me with medicine. You know what? When these doctors said, "What's your bottom line on this?" and I said, "Extinction." Nothing is going to live through this by doing this. So, we might make it our bottom line to be $1, but nobody's going to be around to spend it.
We had the HST rammed down our throats.
Okay.
Now we're getting these rammed down our throats. Is there anything or any councillor that can come up with something and say enough is enough?
Well, let me just suggest this, if I may. There's all sorts of social media out there. There's Twitter, etc. There's websites. And don't forget, you'll be able to pose questions to these gentlemen and the city and ITRON as well, and let other people know what's going on from your perspective and see if anyone's got any answers.
We have done.
Well, have a chat with me afterwards, please.
Steve, if I could just touch on that very briefly. I've personally heard of a few people now that cannot wear their hearing aids in their home after the smart meter has been put in, because when they walk by their electrical outlets and their light switches and stuff, they have clicking and all kinds of problems with their hearing aids. So when we talk about potentialities of putting tinfoil in certain areas, we still move into the fact that these things are traveling throughout the wires, and you're starting to, sit down where you got a couple outlets and things of that nature. You still would probably be getting these effects. It's going to be different for every house, but it's a very similar thing when you have these devices and they start coming out of these outlets everywhere in your house now. Now you have to be worried about that as well. So the technicality of putting tinfoil in a particular area won't necessarily protect you. It's really about getting the device off of your house and not using these types of devices.
Okay, thank you. And, sir, I was serious about that. See me afterwards. There's something I'll show you, if you would. Next gentleman, please.
My name is Nelson Meikle. Live in Penticton. I see from the handout here that this letter from Industry Canada issued out of Kelowna is dated January 25th, 2012. How come the city started installing these meters, I believe 2010 or something to that effect, and now we only get a letter in 2012 saying that it's good enough to be put on houses? Quite a difference between the two time dates, I would say, like 24 months plus.
With respect to your question, we actually started installing these meters in 2003 on the electrical side, in 2005 on the water side, and I think what's happened is the issue around radio frequencies is something that has emerged in the last few years. From what I've been reading and what I've seen, it seems to have mainly emerged with the BC Hydro program to install smart meters. That's when it started to come to the forefront. So when we started the installation program, this wasn't an issue that was out there.
So you didn't do your homework well enough, is what you're saying, or the group, I should say.
That's an opinion.
I don't agree with that comment. In terms of that, I mean, municipalities and consumers purchase many things. And when we do that, we purchase things that are regulated by those that have the ability to do that and those that set the standard. So we go out and we're purchasing a device that does meet all the standards.
Okay.
So that in that sense, I mean, we don't go and buy something that doesn't meet standards. No, we don't do that. But in this case,
Well,
we did.
that's fine.
We bought something that did meet the standard.
Okay, my other question is, Eric.
Speaking to the microphone.
Yeah,
Nelson?
Eric, you made a comment, something to the fact that it's very trivial what goes through the walls, etc. And you also made a comment that it does not transmit into residents. I have a meter. I purchased a meter a couple of days ago, and I happened to go up to Henry, who was just here, I think 2 nights ago, etc. And it scared the living hell out of him and his wife and myself and Kevin that was there. And this meter is not a good quality meter. I've got another one coming in. Is the city prepared to go do testing where we believe that there is a serious harmful problems on health effects? Are they prepared to do that now?
We don't have that technology, we don't have that expertise on staff, and also if you're using a device to measure this RF frequency, you have to be sure of the device that you're using. Is it approved for that purpose? Is it calibrated? I know that these RF analyzers are quite expensive. They're on the order of $25,000, and I highly doubt that that's the device that you're using. It is possible that if we may engage some outside expertise to do that, if we're required to do that. I think that's certainly an option that we can explore.
What's the requirement then? Not when Henry's dead, I hope.
Sir, please.
Direction from council.
In terms of that, I mean, you're suggesting that we go to people's homes and actually test every home. I mean,
no, I didn't say that.
Well, where you feel there's a concern.
That's right.
I apologize. In terms of that, I mean, again, I think the issue we're dealing with is we're installing a device that meets the standards. I think the bigger question is where do we move forward from here? And I don't know that going and testing every house is the direction you go. You might go in a different direction. You might go in a direction of an opt-out program. You might go in a direction of a moratorium. You might go in a direction of let's change the type of meters we install. There's a host of things that can be looked at. I don't know that that would be one of them.
Okay, maybe what I should do as a concerned citizen, as a young senior, I'll go do some testing for people's homes, free of charge, and we'll put a list together and send it all into the city. How's that going? Then you guys can back it up.
That would be up to you if you want to do that.
I suggest to everybody, get your name on the list out there and talk to Kevin. And we'll go do it free of charge for you. It might take us a couple of weeks, but we will do it free of charge.
Thank you. Appreciate that very much.
Steve, sorry, Steve, if I could I can say that I have actually personally used the best devices you could possibly find on the market with calibration certificates and everything, and this is what we have found with these particular devices. And I will also say, in regards to Mitch's comment about, the concerns started coming around when the hydros, BC Hydro smart meters. The concerns more or less started when microwaves were being used, 30s, 40s, things of this nature. Lindsay will know perhaps more about this, what the Russians were finding about in World War II. This is when the concerns and the understandings about this started. So we're actually talking, perhaps not necessarily about more so with the smart meters, we're talking about decades of time of knowing and understanding. But I'm not trying to, attack you and say you should have known this thing, just to know that actually that knowledge does at least date back to the beginning in the 30s with microwave heating of materials and also radar use and things of that nature.
Okay, thank you, Brian. And we did have a couple of people. Oh, ma'am, are you joining us for a question?
Yes, I am. My name's Claire Ingram. I'm from Oliver, and I'm addressing myself to ITRON. I'd like to know, with the smart meter, if it picks up other radio frequencies within the house. Therefore, we're paying extra. Have you done a study on this?
I'm not sure I follow what you mean by picks up other radio frequencies.
Well, you're reading in the house the energy, right? of the electrical energy that is going on in the house.
Correct.
So therefore, if I'm using my cell, are you picking up that radio frequency?
No. So
Have you done the study on this?
The meter measures based on the electrical current that's flowing through the wires going into your house. The measurement being performed by the meter has nothing to do with radio frequencies. Nothing.
Nothing to do with radio?
Correct.
Isn't this what we were talking about
The radio frequency transmitter in the meter, and if it's a smart meter receiver, it's got a receiver as well, that's used for communicating to the meter to retrieve the data that's been measured by the meter. But the meter measurement function has nothing to do with radio frequency. It simply samples the waveform, the voltage and current waveforms, 4,000 times a second, and does some math and calculates it.
I'm using my microwave. It's plugged in.
Well, your microwave draws
so
electrical
therefore,
current.
it's a radio frequency is being emitted through that as well through the wires. So you're picking up extra radio frequencies.
No, the electric meter measures electrical power at a fundamental frequency of 60 hertz based on the voltage, potential energy at the lugs on your meter, and the current in amps that's drawn through the lugs on the meter. It has nothing to do with radio frequency in the air. You got to trust me on this one. I've been doing this for a long time.
Well, I would say he's
the gentleman over here the same question.
Pretty much correct. What I would deem is sort of what he's trying to explain is that the purpose of the meter is it's going to send out a radio frequency so the truck or the guy walking by or the collector station can understand that information. But if you're using a cell phone, I don't think there's going to really be any effect on the electrical load in your house being measured at a higher rate, so you'd be charged more.
Has study done on this? Has study been done on this?
I couldn't speak to that, but
something that really needs to be done with this is checking harmonics.
That's
checking,
right.
checking, you know, something.
So we do. So that, and I apologize for interrupting. That was actually rude of me. All of those things are your spec manual on the building codes. That's a pittance compared to the specifications that are required by organizations like the American National Standards Institute that have a whole series of standards for revenue grade meters. I mean, the list goes on forever. That deals with harmonic distortion with at various frequencies. So actually, all of those tests are done on revenue grade electrical meters, and there's no measurable effect.
Have you done it on the wiring inside the building?
Excuse me?
Have you done it on the wiring inside the buildings? Not just harmonics within the meter itself, but something that, you know, very important to consider is when you get a whole bunch of different frequencies, you know, you got some pretty electrically ugly looking things for some potential there. And this is something I've even said to engineers. Is anybody going inside the buildings to see what this is doing electrically to be causing these disturbances and these interferences? And maybe that's just more that needs to be done on more fronts.
But the point of demarcation between the electric utility who delivers power and the customer who receives power is at the meter. So the rubber hits the road at the meter socket. So the important thing is the meter immune to harmonics and all the other vagaries on the power line at the meter socket where the measurement is taking place, and in fact it is.
If I could, Mike, is there a chance that something of that nature could be either provided to the city or just to I'm sure you have it. I'm not saying you guys don't have it. Just so we could see that was done or whatever, or what you guys came up with, if possible.
I should think it'd be easily located in the ANSI C12 family standards. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you, Claire.
You're welcome. I wanted to ask one more question.
Can you then wait to the other people, because we've still got a couple more people here, please. And Lindsay, I think you were going to be next on my list anyway.
Leg is falling asleep here. Gentlemen, you've told us that these are referred to as AMR meters, the ones that are being sold to Penticton. Now, they do have a transmitter, receiver, transceiver, correct?
No. Transmitter only.
Only transmitter. Then you mentioned that the pulsed signal from the gentleman driving by wanting to read the meter.
So
it only refers to the smart meters outside of this community?
No, so what's interesting is that when that meter reader keys his handheld to read those meters, he's not emitting any RF radiation. He's simply enabling the receiver on his handheld device to read any RF energy that happens to be in the area coming from those meters. It's a frequency scanning receiver.
Okay, so he needn't signal each meter saying that ready to read.
Correct. So the reading device, to be clear, the meter readers in Penticton are not transmitting any RF energy. They're simply receiving.
Okay, so it's only the meter on the home or the building.
Correct.
And continuous transmission.
It's not continuous.
Every 11 seconds. No, I wanted to mention that thanks to Will for opening the dialogue on this, but we did acquire some EMF Gauss meters and went around testing different devices. The cell phone, the handheld cell phone, measured so minutely. My brand new 1100 watt microwave running on high, the highest leakage factor around the door measured minutely. But the AMR meter on the back of my store measured quite considerably, in fact, over the meter on either side of the wall. That is, outside against the meter, but inside the building as well. Another factor, though, for the community to understand is that the spiral CFL light bulbs pegged the meter more than 20 times that of my 1100 watt microwave. So I would get those out of the home as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. I believe Barbara.
Hi. I just wanted to read a statement here and get your opinion on it. Transmitters in the smart meters are regulated by the federal government only. The province has no jurisdiction in the matter. It falls under the Federal Radio Act and has no provision under which a transmitter of any type may be installed on private property without the consent of the property owner. The Clean Energy Act makes no mention of transmitters, and neither do the tariffs that regulate BC Hydro. They cannot mandate installation of transmitters as the province has no authority in law to do so. BC Hydro does not have legal authority to install a transmitter of any type on any property. It is purely a business policy decision that the consumer is not party to, nor has the consumer consented to this policy via any terms and conditions of the supply of electricity. Our rights, again, are being taken away from us. We don't want transmitters on our homes, and we want our rights back to say no.
Thank you, Bob. Mr. Knowles, I believe you had a further question.
Thank you very much. For the people from ITRON, why you don't make a super meter who sends only the signal if the meter reader comes and asks for? Not all 24 hours, the whole thing. He doesn't need. He comes one time a month.
So
you have a button on your, the meter reader has a button on his machine. He pushes and then he gets the answer only because he asked for.
So early generations of AMR systems, in fact, the early generations of ITRON AMR systems actually used a similar scheme to that. It was called a wake-up tone. It was a licensed wake-up tone, 901, 935, maybe 935. Yeah. It was outside the 902, 928 band. So it used a licensed wake-up tone. The utilities had to get a spectrum use license for that wake-up tone to wake up those endpoints. When the endpoints heard the wake-up tone, they would transmit a series of bursts and then go back to what was called a sleep mode. That mode of operation was originally designed to accommodate battery-powered endpoints when battery technology wasn't particularly good in order to get a 15 to 20-year useful life out of batteries. there are a couple of reasons why basically everybody went away from the idea of a wake-up tone. One was that, especially for an electric endpoint, you didn't have to worry about battery power. You had a continuous supply of electricity, so you didn't have to worry about the battery life. The biggest reason is that receiver sensitivity on the meter endpoint was the limiting factor in how far away you could read the meter. In other words, you had to be closer to the meter to wake it up than you had to be to hear the transmission when the meter transmitted. And over time, the degradation of that receiver had a negative effect on read performances of the system. So you get significantly better system read performance by using what's called a bubble up method, transmitting more frequently and not requiring the wake-up tone. And that's basically why we went away from it.
Okay, that means the meter reader, the person has to go closer to the meter to do that.
Used to have to go closer.
That means he needs more time, he costs more.
Correct.
He doesn't need, you told me before, normally it was 22 days to meter readers in Penticton, I don't know what, or now it will be 4.5 days, it will be 6 days back. Is that a big difference? It doesn't matter to me. My health is more important than if the meter has to go closer to get his results.
Performance is performance.
That is kind of, you should think a little bit more common sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Peter. And I think we have one final question, and Claire, if you would, please.
Just a quick question here. Why wasn't Hydro invited to this forum? City of Penticton buys it from them, so.
The reason BC Hydro was not invited to the forum is that the City of Penticton is the electrical utility within our boundaries.
But you buy it from them.
Well, just a second though. We buy our power from Fortis BC, and then we sell it to the customers and we install the meters. So BC Hydro has no role in the City of Penticton at all. So that's why they're not here.
But they do, because you are buying it. You're the end user of their product.
No, that's not correct. We buy our power from Fortis BC, not BC Hydro.
Well, it doesn't matter. Fortis, BC Hydro, it doesn't matter. You're still buying the electric from them. So therefore, there should have been a representative here.
Well, I would just add that you can see we've already been nearly 3 hours on this, and we never even got a chance to panel question and answers. So if there had been someone else as well. This has opened people's eyes, hopefully, to the situation so that more questions can be asked and a lot more answers can be had as well. And that can be one of them, of course. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I just want to say that this forum is not the only way you can express your opinions. Of course, you can use the social media, Twitter, Facebook, and the City of Penticton website. You can also, of course, write or fax your councillors or regional representatives, and answers to some of your questions may well be on the city website. But thank you to all who have expressed opinions here this evening, as well as those who have listened. Our thanks also to John Clark and our techie, who did such a good job for these guys as well. Our thanks to the City of Penticton staff. Our thanks to the media, to the city councillors that are here, to the representatives of both sides of this, and of course to His Worship, Mayor Dan Ashton, who's going to give you a few closing remarks.
Very quickly, two more questions.
Sorry, ma'am. What I would encourage you maybe is grab the panels after. It's 10 o'clock. Sorry. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, first of all, for allowing us to do this tonight. Your presentation and performance was great. Thank you. You've kept it mostly non-personal, which really made a difference. To both the panels, thank you very much. Kevin, thank you for initiating this. Mitch, thank you for on the city behalf, and everybody at the city. Gentlemen, thank you for coming up from the States on this. Lots of questions. There's going to be lots more questions, I'm quite sure. On behalf of all of us at the city, and especially the councillors in attendance tonight, we want to thank you for being here, and we look forward to further input from you. And last but not least, let's give a hand for both the panels, but especially for Mr. Steve King. Thank you. And to each and every one of you, some of you have traveled from afar. Please travel safely going home. And there were questions tonight that didn't have anything to do with the City of Penticton, but the panels did their best to give answers for other utilities which your residences are based in. So travel safe tonight, and thank you very again. Bye. Appreciate it very much.
sorry to keep us.
No, you did a good job.